All right, excellent. Happy Friday, everyone, and welcome to our monthly webinar. And this week is about production and manufacturing in SAP Business One. Happy to be here today. Last Friday of every month, we are having this educational series of webinars. And happy to present here today with Beth.
Hello, thanks so much for the introduction, Oren. As always, we're so glad to be back and sharing more, more information and training with you. We love doing this monthly and love to take your feedback as well. So if there are any areas after we get done with production that you think you want to see, let us know, and we'll put it on the docket.
Excellent, thank you. And again, my name is Oren. I'm the CEO and President of Pioneer B1, and we're gonna talk today about production and manufacturing. Everything you needed to know about production in SAP Business One, we'll try to cover in the next hour or so. So let's get started. Just one thing to mention, today we're gonna cover everything related to the functionality of production. We'll talk mainly about out of the box, and we are gonna demo with the HANA 10.0 environment, but everything we're gonna demo today is relevant for HANA or SQL clients, as well as it's relevant for 9.3 clients. So look forward to sharing that with you. And let's get started with the agenda. So what we're gonna be talking today is about, first we're gonna look at bill of materials, because apart from production, there are some other bill of materials types, so we can take a look at those. And after that, we're gonna look at the BOM component in a production bill of materials. We're gonna see how a production order can be created, either manually or through MRP or through make to order type of scenarios. And then we're going to look at production process, simple production process with backflash option, and then with manual option, we're going to look at more robust BOMs, as well as we're going to spend maybe a few minutes about maybe extended functionality using add-on for shop floor management. We're going to end up with some reporting available and documentation.
Perfect. So I will take the baton from here, and to go ahead and get started, like Oren said, the first thing that we want to look at as it relates to production in SAP Business One are the bill of materials. So before we get into the nitty-gritty of exactly what makes up a bill of materials, we want to understand what the different types of bill of materials are in SAP. So we have 4 types of BOMs available for you. There's sales, template, assembly, and production. And you can see on the screen, kind of an overview of what each of them kind of looks like and does, some high-level points. But as always, we like to jump into a live demo. So I want to show you what they look like in SAP and how they behave there. So I'm going to jump into our SAP system. And like Oren said, we are in our 10.0 HANA environment, and we'll jump right into bill of materials. So the first one that I wanted to show are the sales and assembly bill of materials. So you can search here for sales bill of materials, and we see for all of them, we have our kind of parent item here and our component items. Won't get too much into that, but essentially for this, we have but when we're going to want to use an assembly, how much kind of the sales bill of materials here. So this is really helpful. Let's go ahead and choose not that one, 1005. Go ahead and choose this. So you'll notice in the sales bill of materials that when I choose this parent item, all of the component items are available along with it. We can update quantity of our components, we can update the unit price of our components, and we have some more flexibility in that regard. However, in our assembly type bill of materials, you can see here, let's see, grab our assembly bill of materials, and you can see there that it's just the parent item that's being brought in. So we did have those components, but it's just the parent. So if in distinguishing between the two, you want to figure out which one is best for your company to use, just, you know, want to look at how much control you need over kind of those components. Are you selling it as a package like this, or is it something that you're kind of assembling and, you know, don't need to update any quantity? Beyond that, we have what's called a template bill of materials. This is our most flexible bill of materials type. And so in this template bill of materials, we'll go ahead and open it up and take a look. And the template bill of materials is essentially, like I said, the most flexible. You're able to add and remove component items. And here, we'll go ahead and open up a template. So in this case, you're able to add and remove component items on the sales side and update quantities and things like that. As opposed to the sales BOM, you can add and update quantities and costs, but you can't remove any of those component items. So this one, our template, is the most flexible. And then that leads us to our last bill of materials, which is our production bill of materials. So in our production bill of materials, we'll go ahead and open this up. And we're looking at just a simple production bill of materials in this case. And this is the type of BOM that's required to initiate production. So I'll hand it over to Oren to give you more information about what makes up the bill of materials, but just to know, this is what you need for production.
Excellent, thank you, Beth. And yeah, with production order, you need to go through production process. So let's take a look at the.
Yeah, absolutely. And feel free, if anybody does have any questions, that chat box on the side of the GoToMeeting, feel free to enter any of your questions there and we'll answer them as we go as well.
Thank you, Beth. So as we look at this BOM, we can see that this BOM is a little bit more complex than other BOM. First, we see that it's a production BOM. In a production BOM, let's see what components we could have within the BOM. So we see that when we choose the type, we see we have different options. We have an option to choose item, which is basically item master data, components, and things of that nature. We have an option to select resources, which is a different components, which normally be used for machine or labor and things of that nature. And we can use text, like here, line number 5. It can provide any instruction and things of that nature for that are related to the production order. And the last thing we could choose is routing stages. And routing stages really helps you, you know, maybe if before 9.2 there weren't any routing stages, sorry, before 9.3, in this version, it could help you eliminate some of the sub-assemblies because every routing stages could be handled separately, and there could be even a time between one production to another, any waiting days. For example, maybe you do a painting and you need to wait a day until it will dry and things of this nature. You could manage the route. So for example, in this case, we created the preparation, but you can get additional routing stages and have different resources and items within each one of them. An item, like I said, it's from the item data, but let's take a look at resources a little bit further. Down into the resource, you can.
You're a little choppy, Oren. Sorry about that. Just a little choppy.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Is it better now?
Yep, sounds a little bit better. Yeah. Let's go with.
Okay. Thank you. So for the resource, we can see that we can have, you know, labor or machine. We can define what's the unit of measure. We can define how many units we can produce in a specific unit of time. So that could help us with planning. over here we have the cost of the resource, how much it costs us to do a unit basically. And in the accounting area, we have a section that we can associate different GL account with each one of those costs. So you could be very flexible with the accounting structure on that. In addition, the resource master data enable you to do the planning. So you could say, you know, how many shifts you are working with, what's daily capacity, what's a single run capacity, and things of that nature. You could specify, sorry, there is a little bit of a background noise. Could you guys mute yourself when not talking? Thank you. And employees is going to help us specify which employees are going to be involved or certified to use that machine, or if certified to do that work and things of that nature. And if you do the planning and based on your actual production, then you can see the capacity data and make sure that you have enough availability to handle the production. So that's really can help you manage your capacity data. So there is a lot about routing as well, but we're going to include also some additional materials in our documentation about routings, or maybe if there will be a demand, we're going to do a separate webinar just about routing capacity and scheduling. And some other things that are nice to have or to know are the arrows. If you need to change your schedules of the routing, or you know, you may want a text to appear, you know, next to the junior technician, so you could move up and down different rows by highlighting them and moving them up and down. And a couple of other things, the warehouse. So in many cases, maybe you have external vendors that is doing the work and things of that nature. In the bill of materials, you can define what will be the default warehouse for the production. So within the production or within the BOM, you can tell the system from which warehouse components are going to be consumed, and when you finish the production, to which warehouse by default is going to be receiving those materials. Some other things to highlight here, we're going to talk about later, is the issue method, if it's manual or backflash, and it's also coming as a default from the item master data or the resource master data. And the last but not least is the price list. You could always see here the pricing, but it's not going to affect any of the costing or the things that are going to hit your GL and the journal entries that are going to be created. This is not a cost. This is mainly for informative. You could also update the price list of the parent. For example, if I'm going to change it to a different price, it's base price, you will see that all those prices are changing automatically. So that will help you see maybe what is the value of the BOM using different price lists. But it also can help you maybe see the total. So if you click on that little triangle here, you will see that it will summarize all the BOM components, and maybe you want to add to that markup. So you could even manually add, you know, or manually type it. And by clicking on a update, that will update the finished product price in that associated price list. All right, and with that being said, we are ready to take a look at the production and multiple ways to create a production order.
Hello, yeah, hi. Is there we can see any item cost here in form settings? We can find any item cost here directly from here.
I do not believe we could have the item cost here. No, the item cost by default is not here. The item costs reside within the item master data. So this is where you can see the item cost. There is also an option to bring here with the formatted search or other tools the item cost.
You can also use things like last purchase price, maybe closer to your item cost, but yeah, that's correct. All right, perfect. And we did have someone that asked, hi, some product prices don't change when we change the price list here. They may have the same price list, you know, maybe their purchase price and their base price are the same. I'm not entirely sure, but yeah, if they don't change here, that means they have the same price on 2 different price lists. But in general, all of those unit prices will update to their price on that price list. Wonderful.
I would just maybe help clarify to Norris the price that will update is only for the header, only for the finished product in that associated price list based on the different price we have here. If you didn't change that and click update, it will not change anything.
I started in chat box. Can you check once my question?
Yes, we will take care of that, and we will read the notes and take care of that. Yes, absolutely. So Beth, I believe we answered the questions for the product price, so we can move forward into production.
Wonderful. Okay, so now that we know what bill of materials are and kind of what makes up the meat of the bill of materials, we want to get into creating a production order in SAP, which, you know, is our bread and butter of production. So what initiates a production order in SAP is kind of the big question. So we have 3 different ways to initiate a production order in SAP. One is manually. We can just manually create a production order. The other option is what's called the Procurement Wizard. This is going to be more for our make-to-order clients, and you know that you can initiate production based on a sales order. And the last way is MRP, and this is going to, so you want to create production orders based on, you know, forecasted supply and demand. So first of all, we're going to start with the manual production order. We're going to start with a very simple production order right off the bat. So we picked this one here. What you saw right there was just me opening the production order. All we want to do is select the product that needs to be produced. We can determine what quantity we'd like to produce. And you saw right when I updated this, if you look at the component quantity, it's updating as well. So we determine what quantity we want to produce. We can make any adjustments as needed, and, you know, at our start and due date. So maybe it's due in and off we go. So now for our make to order clients, what you'll probably want to do is use what's called the So let's see, Tim asked, does the production order remove the components from inventory? So Tim, that's a great question. And you're actually a little bit ahead of us. Oren's gonna cover that, and the methods, or, you know, at which time you want to remove the components from inventory. There's different options. So I'll leave that up to Oren to cover in just a moment, but yes. So on to the Procurement Wizard. All right, if we open up a sales order, so let's say that we get Betty Spaghetti places an order, and she is, you know, placing an order for that dog toy that we were looking at. So here we've added our dog toy onto the sales order, and let's say, you know, maybe we need it in 2 days. So we've added our due date there. And then if we go over to the logistics tab, we have this option that says procure non-dropship items. So we want to click yes on that, which means, hey, please create a procurement document for this sales order. So we add, you know, whatever sales quantity we want there, and we'll go ahead and add our sales order. And now you can see for this Procurement Wizard, it's popping up. So this is, you may think procurement is purchasing, which in some cases it is, but in this case, we're going to use this to initiate production. So it will bring up our base document, what customer this is for, yada, yada. Everything looks good. We go to our next step. If there's anything that we need to update in terms of quantity, warehouse, delivery date, we have the freedom to do that. If in some cases, it will recommend here, because this is a production item, it will recommend us to create a production order, but we do have the ability to change that as well if we wanted to create a purchase order, purchase request, that type of thing. That looks good. We'll go, the next screen is this consolidation screen. So in this case, and we'll go through an example that has kind of multiple documents consolidated. In this case, we're just basing our production order on one sales order. So we're not doing any kind of consolidation. But in the case where we maybe have multiple sales orders and we want to consolidate production orders, we have that option. So I'll go through that in just a sec, but that's what that does. And then at this point, it's just going to give you a preview of what it's going to create. So we've gone through all the steps. We're going to create a production order, and we know what quantity. And if we click next, this is what initiates that production order. So it tells you that it generated, and we can drill down, and then you'll see our production order has been created for our quantity of 10 with our specific date that we've defined, and we always have that traceability back to the original sales order. So that is the method of creating our production order through a sales order, through the Procurement Wizard. So the other option kind of for our Procurement Wizard that we can do is when I had mentioned about, instead of just creating it from one sales order and clicking that little checkbox, what we can do is, maybe you want to do this daily. Maybe you want to put orders in, and then at the end of the day, you want to say, hey, for all the business partners, show me what needs to be produced and let me crank out those production orders. So let's select all our business partners. We'll click next here, and then it's going to give us an overview of all of the base documents that have basically open items that we need to produce. So we, at this point, can select multiple. You can either do the control click or the shift click and select whatever you want to take care of here and produce. And then when you click next, it will tell you exactly, it looks like in this case, all we were producing is dog toys in all of those orders. So maybe we should grab a few more in here just to see how that works out. All right, now we have a bit more of a smattering. So it's not just dog toys, we have a lot more that we need to produce. And you can see in some of these cases, we do have, from different orders, we do have some of the same items. So that's where our consolidation is going to come into play. So in this case, by default, it's consolidating by item, which means then when you go and create the production order, it will consolidate these different sales orders on one production order. And that way you won't, you produce for everything that you need. And once that looks good, it will create your production orders. So if there's any questions about those so far, feel free to drop them in the chat. All right. Okay, so yep, please go ahead and put it in the chat and we will cover the questions in just a moment. So last but not least, for ways to initiate a production order. So far we covered the manual and the Procurement Wizard. Next we want to cover what's called MRP. So in this case, like I said, this is for our make to stock companies. So those that maybe want to stock based on supply and demand or minimum inventory levels, things like that. So we'll go ahead and take a look. This is, you can save different MRP scenarios. I won't go into too much of the nuts and bolts here of the MRP setup. It's very customizable, very robust. So if you do want to dig a little bit deeper into MRP, we've done a webinar about that in the past. So feel free to check out our YouTube and take a look at the MRP Wizard if you want to dig into the nuts and bolts. But otherwise, I'm going to review for the purposes of how we can use it to create our production order. So in this case, we can, add our start and end dates. I want to know production based on weeks, lots of other settings there to cover. And then in this case, again, we're just using that dog toy example. I need to know how many dog toys I need to produce. We can determine how we want to run our MRP by company or by warehouse. And then the sources of supply and demand that we want to include in our MRP calculation. So in this case, I've added purchase orders, sales orders, I need my blanket agreements, things like that. Also, importantly, we can determine if we want to take into consideration things like minimum inventory. So even if, maybe we don't have demand, we do like to keep our stock at a minimum inventory. And we can include forecasts in this MRP Wizard as well. So once everything looks good, you can go ahead and run the MRP, and it'll give you your MRP report. So this is going to tell you in weeks what you need to, what your inventory levels look like and how supply and demand are affecting your inventory and what you need to produce. So you can see here in supply the different production orders. You can see in demand, it'll show you the different sales orders that we have open for the dog toys. And additionally here, it will show the component items. So if we're going to be producing this dog toy, we also need to take into account, maybe what purchases of component items that we're going to need to make to create that dog toy. So finally, once we go to recommendations, it's going to recommend what needs to be created. In this case, we know production order, it's consolidated the quantity, and we have different purchase requests for the different component items that are needed to fulfill all of this production. So really handy tool. Once you're done, you can either execute those or just save your recommendations. That will save all of these, and then you can always review your order recommendations here. So we'll review it for this scenario. And you can review and execute. So I want to create this production order. I go ahead and create it. And it lets me know that a production order was created and is removed from the list. So with that being said, those are our 3 ways to initiate production in SAP. And I will go ahead and pass it over to Oren to cover, now that we've initiated production, how do we produce? So I'll pass it over.
Excellent. Thank you, Beth. And I'm going to start with answering a few questions we had here in the chat before we get into the production order. So a couple of questions we had. One is around project code. So a project code can be associated to a production order as well as to the lines of production orders. So if you have, let me see. Project. Okay, so if we have a production order, there is only one place to add a project to the header, but if you have in different lines different projects, when you issue those components, that you could associate different projects in the line, but in the header there will be only one. Another question we had, if the production order remove component from inventory, it commits the inventory, but it does not remove them. As you go through the production order, and we can see when you issue component to production, this is when it removes them, and we're going to see that in just a minute. And the last question I see, if we cancel a production order and run the wizard, will it create the production again? That's a great question. And actually, no, if you cancel a production order, the system still sees that there is a production associated with a sales order. So canceling a production order, you will have to create a production order from scratch and associate the appropriate sales order in the customer manually. All right, so with that being said, let's move forward into...
Hello?
Yes. So I'm not sure if I can hear you, but please please enter the question in the chat if you can. So we are gonna start with a simple sales BOM. I'm gonna show two different types of production process. One is a very simple one, straightforward, and one that have more, resources, routings, and things of that nature. So let's get started. I'm gonna do our BOM 1004. That's a very simple BOM. Have only a few items. Don't have resources or routing or text. We can see that everything or two of those are backflash. So let's talk about what is backflash and what is manual. When we talk about backflash, we're talking mainly about a very short cycle of production order, maybe from the same day of production order. Maybe I want to create 10 of those. I have my numlock not checked. Okay, so I want to create 10 of those. You can see how it updates the plan quantity and affects my availability. So I can see what's available, what's in stock, from what is needed for the component, and what's actually in stock or available. The backflash means normally you do that when you have, again, a short time between the start of the production and the finish. And what it means, you're going to consume the components just when you receive the finished product into inventory. When you have a manual issue method, it means you do a two-step process with the production order. One, you issue components to that production order. So those items are going to remove from inventory and go into WIP, into that production order. And then a second process of receiving the finished product. That's the main difference. So backflash, it's one process. You receive the finished product, and that will consume the components. And manual means you issue the components manually, and separately you bring in the finished products. And I hope it helps. So this is one simple of production order. I'm going to add that production order. Basically, as I'm ready to process it, I need first to change the status to release. That can also help you separate between production orders that are planned and production orders that you actually release to the floor. So this is the way to do that here, and you could do that in batch. If you need to release many production orders in one go, you can do that through the open item list. And then once it's released, you can now report completion of this item. You could do that from this menu under production receipt from production, or you can do that from the production order, say report completion. It will consume that finished product. It will bring in the finished product into inventory, and I can have rejection or completion. So maybe I'll do 9 here, 9 here, and then I could do on the same work order, maybe I'll reject 1. And the other thing you could do, maybe if you want your rejection not to have the same cost as the finished product, because it normally will go to the same warehouse, what you may be able to do is to expose the warehouse here. And by exposing the warehouse and giving different costs to different warehouse, maybe all the rejects can go to the scrap warehouse or to the QC hold and things of that nature. Okay, so I'm going to add that production order, or I'm going to add that receipt from production. It means I received that. All the components that were consumed will be grayed out, and I can see some things in my summary. I can see my actual component cost, or what was issued for that production. So you could see the different transactions here, and I can see my actual product cost, the finished products, and the transaction that brought it into inventory. And we can see actually 2 movements, the 9 for warehouse 1 and the 1 reject for warehouse 6. And we can see the total variance. In this case, I haven't consumed any labor, so that creates that variance of 859. that we can see, and you can always have drill down to see what made your make your variance. Last thing I could do is close that production order, and that will basically by changing the status. And before I move into a more robust BOM, and that basically close the whole thing, and you can still drill down into all the transaction, but that's production order is now closed, and you cannot consume or report anything on that production order. Before I move into a more robust production order, if you ever want to disassemble, the proper way to do that in SAP is to do a disassembly type of production order. So you could define your product that you want to disassembly, and SAP will just do the reversal. It will consume the production order with the quantity we enter here, and will bring in the component into the inventory. I want to move into a new type of BOM or a more robust type of BOM, our dog toy. So let's, I actually want to create a standard production order here. For the dog toy, we can see that we have, and let me make that a little bit larger. We can see that we have all the routing stages come automatically from the bill of material we set up earlier. Let me add quantity. Maybe we need to produce 20 of those, and we can see how it's affect my planned quantity, and I'm going to add that production order. And again, those production orders can be created manually or through MRP or Wizard like we saw earlier. And now I'm ready to start transacting. I'm going to release that production order to the floor. Production order can be printed. There is a very simple layout of production orders that are available out of the box, but I'm sure you may need some barcodes and some other things to add to that production order. So layout changes can be done. Let's look at how we can process that production order. We can see that most of the components here are manually issued. So you, by reporting completion of that production order, you are not going to consume any items. The item needs to be consumed or issued for production in a manual way. So you can go into that menu, issue for production, to issue those components, or you can do that directly from here, from the production order. And this is, again, mainly when you have a longer production order, so you want to create it manually, because, you know, if you have a production that takes maybe a month, you don't want to see those components in the inventory, you want to consume them, so they're not available maybe for sale or for other production orders and so forth. So let's see how we do that. You can do issue for production from the production menu, or from the production order itself, we could do issue components. And issue components will bring you into multiple areas. You could issue components of everything and all the items and the components in the production orders, or you could issue only for a specific routing step or only for a specific resource and so forth. So let's say I want to move between my routing stages. So, you know, my first stage is to do the preparation. So I want to issue the component for the preparation. I can see that there are 3 type of items here. We could see the animal safe coding and some labor from junior technician, and of course I'm gonna need the mixing machine for that, and I'm gonna click add, assuming I issue the same quantity as recommended, but you could modify it here. And as soon as I do that, you will see that the lines here become gray. And now I can do that also for the next. I can do issue components for my next routing stages and so forth and so forth. If you wish to do that in a batch, so you don't want to go, you know, each production order separately, you can do that. We have here under the inventory menu, there is the pick and pack, and the pick and pack is actually pick and pack and production manager. So for example, let's say I want to issue all components for all my production order. Instead of looking at doing pick lists for sales orders, you could specify to the people, to the pickers, to pick items needed for production orders. So you can specify production orders. There are all kinds of other items like maybe priorities and things of that nature, or start date or due date and things of that nature related to the production order, and warehouses and things of that nature. I can click OK, and that will bring all my production orders that then I can create pick list and issue for production through the pick and pack in Production Manager. But going back to my production order, I'm going to continue with our production order here by issuing component for the second route and for the third route. And I can do the production and the packaging and do that in the same way, or I can leave it empty so everything else needs to be issued that haven't been issued will be recommended here. So I can see my rows 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9s and the related quantity. It issues also resource and also items types of information. So we can add that issue for production. Each one of those, by the way, each issue and each report completion create a journal entry. It will remove raw material and move it into WIP, and maybe in that production order, because of my setup, it will show finished product. But for those items, it's really gonna take it from raw materials into the WIP, as well as with the resources. It's gonna move everything into work in progress, and then when I report completion, it's gonna move it from work in progress into finished goods. And I see we have some questions in the chat. We're gonna handle them in just a few moments. So every step that I do in the production, I'm gonna reflect also in the summary. So I can see here that I have issued components, and I can drill down, which components it has hard, real-time cost associated with that. I can see also how I use my labor and my machine that also has associated cost with. And what I can see here that at this point I don't have any actual cost. That's why our variance is so big, because I haven't reported completion. So as soon as I report completion, basically our production is done. I'm ready to receive all my finished goods. And in this case, I completed everything. I had no scrap during that process. I can just add that receipt from production. Going back to that receipt from production, you will see that the journal entry will move things from WIP into my finished product. So real-time effects on the financials. And now in the summary, we could see that I actually have a product cost, and I can see that my total variance is now 0, because there was no variance between the component consumed and the finished product that I received. There is also additional information like production time and additional time, total time, and so forth. So you have all that information in the summary tab. And if I'm good and I don't need to report anything else like earlier, I can close that production order. Now I'm gonna take a look at some of our questions here in the chat. Okay, somebody's commenting, great comment, that in version 10.0, if we cancel the production order, the sales order, if you run through the wizard, it will recommend to create a new production order. Awesome. Thank you for that comment. There is a question about byproduct. Excellent question. If you basically, when you create a production order, maybe we'll look at the simple example, and you receive into inventory maybe not just that product, maybe you receive a byproduct, an additional product that is a subset of that production. Maybe you do fabric, and maybe you have a use for that scrap. So a way to add a byproduct is by adding an inventory product into the production order or the BOM. And I will use just a random one because I didn't prepare that example. So maybe rubber cylinder, I know it's unrelated to that production order, but basically the way to handle a byproduct is by adding a component and adding minus. So that will tell the system as soon as I finish the production order to receive not just the finished product, but also the byproduct. You can define how many. So maybe for every one of them, we're gonna do minus 0.5, right? So as I do a planning maybe for 10 production order, I'm gonna have minus 5 of this byproduct. So I'm gonna go into the release here, and this is a simple BOM. So I'm gonna just report completion. When I report completion, I expect 2 lines. 1 line for the finished product and the other line for the byproduct, and the system will receive both of them into inventory once I edit. Cool, and thank you for your questions. We're gonna wrap. We're gonna continue, if we may, with just a quick understanding of maybe shop floor management. So SAP Business One have out of the box a lot of ways to manage production. I would say the only limitations it have is shop floor management. So if you want a very easy interface for your employees to interact with the system in a really easy way, straightforward, it's basically hard to do that with SAP Business One, and maybe not intuitive for your users. So some of the WMS vendors also provide some production handling. So the production could be reported also through the WMS. But if you do only production, we're going to show you today, maybe in a few minutes, how the Boyum Cloud, the PDC one, by the way, it's doing very similar things. A web interface into shop floor employee master data. It can also have some other things, like scheduling for a manager, and an easy way to create new bill of materials. But Beth is just going to go through the interface in the next 5 minutes.
Perfect. Thanks so much, Oren. So like he said, we have lots of partners we work with, but the one I want to highlight today is Boyum Cloud. So as you can see here, they have a couple of different modules. There is this build module that does, like what Oren was saying, it's a way to build your bill of materials and price them in a really nice interface. That takes into account margins, your component costs, things like that, and allows you to price smart and set up your operation plan. But I want to kind of focus on these two interfaces, the manager and the operator interfaces. So really the value here is being able to have a real-time visibility of things like what your resources are doing, what your operators are doing, you get a statuses. Additionally, here, which production orders have we completed on time, and which we haven't, and looks like 66.6666% of the time. So things like that. So this interface gives you key KPIs on the dashboard. And then for our production manager, they also get a detailed overview of all of their production orders. So, you might have seen us working on some of these in SAP, but we get to see things like operation status. So in these cases, both of our routing stages are completed, but we have some others that maybe this one is in progress, it's in its preparation stage. We can see priorities. We can also finalize production from here. So for instance, for order 161, our production manager says we're all set, let's finalize. And in this case, didn't want to finalize that. So otherwise, generally finalizes, we can close out production orders there. They also have the ability to release orders to production, so by approving that order. And so really gives the operator or the production manager a high-level view of what's going on their shop floor. And it's all built off of SAP, so using all that SAP data in real time. On the operator side, we have this interface, so you're able to use it on, on a tablet or a smartphone. If we minimize it a little bit, you can see that it resizes intelligently to the screen size, and then our operators are just going to log in here with their card number. So this is the view for the operator. They get to see what operations they're currently working on, or what other operations are out there on the shop floor that maybe they need to get started. So you can see here, we're working on, let's look at this lemon printer. So we've started our production stage. We go ahead and click on it, and as you can see, we have, it's a running timer, so it's going to keep track of, the time since we've started the production. So actually, this is what it looks like there if you just want to start production. So all your operator has to do is start it, and that timer will start going. But let's look at, what it looks like when they are ready to complete production. So they've spent their time. They, we're making 100 of this quantity, of this printer. So we'll go ahead and complete our production. We do get the option to either do more work or finish the operation. Let's say we've completed 90 and we have 10 that are going to scrap. In this case, we don't have any resources on that production, but we'll go ahead and go to our materials. So if we have a manual issue method, we will get the option to update, these numbers. In this case, we are using backflush issue method. So it's going to take our component items based on what we've determined there, and it's letting you know that 90 units were created, 100 were expected, so it's going to mark that as scrap, and we can register completion of this production order. So now you can see that that's come off of our operations, and if we go back and look from this point of view, I believe that was this one, our 161 here. Oh no, okay, sorry, that was 175. So we can see production completed and packaging needs to go. So that's when they would start, go to the next page and start their packaging for 175. If we want to go ahead and look, it updates SAP in real time. So we can look at our production order 175 and okay, all right, so we did our, and I forgot, we're in backflush method here. So if we're in manual, we would consume those components at that time. Since we're in backflush method, we have to wait until we complete this production order. And then it will consume our components there. But then in general, that next stage, we would do our packaging with our large box and complete our production. So like I said, this is just a, one of the many options to extend the functionality for, for your shop floor employees and get more real-time visibility into your production costs and time that it takes to complete production on both resources and materials side. So with that being said, I'll go ahead and pass it over to Oren. I know we have just a couple minutes left to be able to cover some of the reports in SAP, and I know that's important. So Oren, I'll go ahead and pass it over to you to cover a couple of the reports available.
Thank you, Beth. I'm going to do that real quick because we are end of our time. So very basic reporting available out of the box, but a lot of queries available as well. So just quickly to go through that bill of material reports that will show you, different breakdowns of a BOM. So if you have sub-assemblies, you will see that more dented and so forth. So that's kind of one report. And the second thing is the open item list, which then shows you all the open production orders. So you can see that by release, by plan. So for example, if you want to move some production order from plan to release, you can do that in one go. and change them all to release or cancel them and things of that nature in a batch way. So rest of the reports are very limited, but again, with the query manager or crystal reports, you could do so many things. Maybe just a quick glance at bill of material component management before we depart, Beth.
Yeah, absolutely. So I wanted to just quickly cover that. This is really great for managing any changes to your bill of materials in a batch format. So for instance, we can either add, change, delete, or kind of update our bill of materials. So, you know, maybe we have a component that, you know, is now no longer available to us and we need to update that component. Or maybe we want to, you know, add a certain component. In this case, to our dog toy here, we want to add, let's see, oh, spelled that wrong, A-N-M.
Beth, I don't think we have time for the example, Beth, so.
Okay, no worries. So essentially, we're able to easily add their different lines to our bill of materials or update things like that.
It's a great tool when really you maybe your vendor changed the part, maybe you decided to change from engineering perspective part, so it allows you to do that in a batch way. And there are two other things we wanted to talk about is the production cost recalculation wizard that allow you to eliminate cost discrepancies by recalculating the production cost. And there is also the product standard cost management that was introduced in 9.2 that gives you the ability to determine what calculates your production standard cost. And there is different options for standard cost rollout and for updates. But I think if there will be a demand, maybe we'll do a more involved production webinar. So with that being said, I believe we covered a lot of the questions in the chat, or most of them, and I think it's a lot that we try to cover in 1 hour of webinar. So I appreciate everybody's time, and because it's the end of our time, we're gonna have everything available, and we send all of you this recording of the webinar, including a blog that we're gonna put together. And in summary, what we covered today is the bill of materials, you know, the different components in the bill of materials, how to create a production order either manually or have the system recommend you, what are the different production processes you can go through, and some tools to help manage the shop floor. With that being said, we're going to have documentations available, and really want to keep our emails available here. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out either to me or to Beth. So thank you everybody for your time today. I appreciate you joined us on this Friday, and wish you a safe and happy weekend.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everybody. Like Oren said, we're really glad to have everybody here, and stay safe, stay healthy, and we look forward to having you next month for our webinar. And like we said, feel free to let us know if you have any suggestions coming up, and we will be announcing our next webinar soon. If there were any questions that we didn't get to, please shoot us an email and we'll be happy to help.
Thank you all. Have a good weekend.